Hello everybody. Today we are going to be not necessarily doing something Minetest specific, which I know craziness. But this has been requested for a while. A tutorial on just kind of the basics of GitHub, how to use it on the desktop now. As most of you probably know by now, I do use Linux. In this case, Linux Mint. Currently I'm using 17.3, 64-bit version of Linux Mint. So this is pretty much only going to be useful if you use Linux. If you use Windows, I guess it's kind of pretty different. I do have a couple virtual machines that I have Windows installed in because there's a couple free games and games I've picked up over the years that you just can't get to work on Linux. So I do, but I've never used GitHub. I've never done any kind of development work on Windows because why would I? I have Linux, which is way better for that kind of stuff in my experience. If you're using Windows, I mean, that's what you got and you make it work and you can use it. That's fine, whatever. But I'm familiar with everything on Linux. There's no reason I would try to do this on Windows because it would be learning how to do something that I would never end up using. So what we're going to start with is obviously you're going to need a GitHub account. So you just go over to github.com and then you create an account. I already have an account and I am logged in. So I'm going to do this, and this isn't necessarily the right or the wrong way. You can do it either. We're going to go ahead and create a new repository, and we are going to call it desert_life. And for some reason, I cannot type today. Like, I keep hitting way too many keys. Here we go, desert life. Okay. Description, Minetest mod, that will... No, not that will. That adds extra things to boring deserts. It is going to be public. Now, see, this is where we get to the point where you could do this two different ways. Now, you can initialize the repository with a readme, and that'll put in files for you. And then you would clone that locally onto your computer, and then start putting your files in. Now in this case, I already have a few files here. Admittedly, nothing that's going to make a mod yet. But so we're just going to start off by making an empty repository. And then we will, on the computer portion here in the file browser, we will go ahead and set that up for Git. So we will create this repository. And we'll see here we have just this blank screen. This actually is totally not a blank screen, but just this information here that pretty much tells us what we need to do. So we open a terminal. Now, of course, we do have to have GitHub installed, which, as you will see, oh, because it's just Git, duh. Okay. I don't know why it's, oh, dude, do I actually not have GitHub installed on here? I don't. Okay, well, in that case, we get to see how to do this. So it's as simple as typing sudo apt get install git. And then, of course, you need your password, which... Enter your password. Of course we want to continue, like why wouldn't we? Hopefully this doesn't take horribly long to download. Alright, so it just finished downloading and installing. So we can go ahead and do our first step now. Okay, so we have a couple files here. Honestly, that's all we need to start. So we will do git initialize. Initialize an empty Git repository, and you'll see we now have this .git folder here, which is good. We could add things, but we won't. So we're just going to do git add all, and this is going to add the 4 files that we have, the 3 pictures and the blend file for the prickly pear. So they are now added into like a temporary cache kind of thing. They're not actually uploaded anywhere. To make them get to a point where we even can upload them, first we have to commit them. So we do git commit -m, and then we'll just do initial upload. You can put anything you want in there. Please tell me who you are. What? What do you mean tell me who you are? Okay, I have never seen that before. Did I do something wrong? Fatal. Unable to auto-detect email address. Got Nathan at Nathan All Series. None. Please tell me who you are. Oh! Oh! Yes. Okay. So, when you install Git, you do need to tell it who you are and what your username is. And that is because in order to make a commit on a file, GitHub keeps track of who the individual is that was making this commit. So if you look at some of the more popular repositories on GitHub, say for example Minetest game or the engine, you'll see that all sorts of different people have, contributed code, and it keeps track of who the contributors were via this method. So you have to run a configuration part here. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Global user email. No, I'm not positive if I need to do this and then do this and then git config global username is... That might be wrong still. I don't even know. Okay, so it looks like that worked. So you just type in the command they tell you, and then where they do the parentheses where it says you@example.com, you would just put in your email address, and then where it says your name, you would just put in your name, or I guess your GitHub username if you're not actually using your own name, which in my case I am, because whatever, I don't care. Alright, so we got these files committed. Sweet. Now, we need to actually tell the computer where to upload these files to, because right now it still doesn't really know what to do with these files. It doesn't know where they're supposed to go online. So we have to add the remote, which is something like this. Git remote, not remove, add origin, https:// github, not gitbug, github.com, Nathan Salapat. Obviously, Nathan Salapat you would replace with the name of your username, and then you would follow with your GitHub repository. We just added it so now it knows where to try to upload to, and then we'll do git push u origin master, and then it'll ask for the username, which is kind of silly because theoretically it knows that already because you just told it what it was. But so we have a username, and then we have to put our password in, and then it uploads it. Now if we refresh this page here, boop, we now have these folders existing in here. Woohoo! They're bugging us because there's not a readme. You know what? Let's fix a few things here, because right now this is horrible. This is completely garbage. So we're going to create a new folder. We're going to call it textures. And we're going to throw all of our textures in there. We're going to create a new folder. Extras, we'll throw the blend file in extras because Minetest doesn't actually use the blend files at all. Those would go into the models folder as our OBJs, which we don't have yet. And then we're going to create a whole bunch of documents. We're going to create a mod.config, and we will just put in there name equals desert_life. So we have a mod config. Obviously we're going to need a readme.txt or .md, whichever you want to go with. We just give a brief description here. This mod adds some extra cacti and desert tort. No, I was going to say desert tortoise, but desert things to the game. Just a brief description, doesn't need to be anything crazy. Let's see, we're going to want a license too, because people need to know what portions they can reuse and what type of license they need to use them under. So we'll do models and graphics by Nathan Salapat, and then I'm going to do the name I use for when I'm online gaming, just so people know that we're both the same people. In case they don't recognize one name, maybe they'll recognize the other. And then I'm just going to use CC by SA 4.0. So basically means people can use it. They just have to give me credit, and they have to release it under a free license like I'm releasing it under. And then obviously we need the the init Lua file. Now we're not going to actually go into creating the Lua because I have other tutorial videos on how to do that. But now we're looking more at like what a mod would actually look like for its layout. So what we're going to do is go ahead and upload these. So we will do git add / all, and now it just updated everything to pretty much just scans through the folder, sees what kind of changes happened, what went on. Git commits. We're just going to give a brief note so people looking at the history of this repository know what was happening. We'll just do major refactoring and adding of needed files. Okay, so now it says here we created, and this is like, we created these files, and then it says we're renaming these. We actually didn't rename them at all, though we put them into a folder, but because of how it works, it's just textures and then a slash because of the folder hierarchy. So just here it's saying we renamed them. We didn't actually rename them, we moved them, but that's okay. And then we just do git push origin master. Now you might notice that I didn't do that that /u that we did the first time. And honestly, I don't know what that /u is for, because the only time I ever use it is when I do the first one. And now we notice, whoa, okay, suddenly everything's changed. We now have all of these files, which admittedly are mostly empty. The readme MD will be displayed down here for GitHub. We should also have a screenshot, but obviously I don't have anything made, so I can't really take a picture. But this is what we can do now. We can look at... where is that button? Here we go. 2 commits. We click on that, and here it tells us, okay, so this is my initial upload, and then this is my next change here. And I can click on this, and it'll tell me all the changes that have happened. So we see, okay, I added these files, and I added this text. It says I renamed these files without changes. I'll actually remove the locations, but that's okay. So now if we go to, let's just see, I don't have any. Of course I don't. Let's look at Minetest game here. Minetest. Okay. Now notice, 5,567 commits. So it's a lot. 222 contributors. If we click on this, it crunches the data. Here we get a listing of all of the people that have made changes to the engine here. So we see Celeron 55 is ranked at the top. He's kind of like, you know, I don't want to say necessarily the owner, because it's kind of a community project, but he's like he's the lead. Okay, so he's the guy who kind of spearheads everything. And then we kind of see here we got these little graphs of when people contributed code. It gives you how many commits they did, how many lines they've added, what they've removed, all sorts of cool stuff like that. So that is why when you set it up, you need to tell it who you are, so it can keep track of all this data, because you never know. You may want to, at some point, refer to a project on GitHub and tell somebody, I worked on this, and they can look at contributors and they can see what you worked on, and you actually can see, let's pull this back up, I believe we can look at a listing, yep, a listing of all of their commits. So then we could see everything that that individual gave to the project, which is pretty cool. Alright, well, I think that covers the basics of using GitHub. Now, there is actually an online editor here, which I totally do not recommend using. I've used it a few times, and it really is just... it's just horrible, actually, is what it is. Okay, so say here we have this file. We can click on this little pencil, and then we can edit the file. But then every single file needs its own commit to it. I don't know, I just don't like using their thing here. It's so much easier just to do it on the computer. Then you can actually test your changes out, make sure everything works before you're actually submitting changes to upstream. So it's available, I just don't like using it. And I've heard that you can't upload images using the web interface, which I've never tried, so I guess I don't really know for sure, but that's what I've heard. Well, that wraps everything up. That is GitHub in a nutshell. If there's any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Leave them on my website. Tweet me. I try to respond to my tweets as soon as possible, but I do have a real job, working 40 hours a week, so I don't always have the best response times, I guess. But hit me up if you have questions, and I will try to answer them. Otherwise, I hang out on the IRC channel on Freenode, Minetest project, for quite a bit. So, yeah, hit me up on one of those, and I will do what I can to help you out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.